Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
The big thing about Shahrukh, one is that when he works with brands, or he really uh, becomes a part of your team. He wants to for you to succeed, and maybe it is his own desire to succeed, and therefore he wants you to succeed.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations in Quarantine. I am very, very happy to host Manishi Sanwal today. Manishi is a graduate of IIM Ahmedabad class of 2000. At one point of time, amongst one of the three most important people in luxury in India. He has been a marketer all his life. Has now entered the world of entrepreneurship with his analytics company, and we'll know much more about that from him as well. He worked very closely with someone like Shah Rukh Khan, someone we all adore a lot. And I think it's going to be a fantastic conversation today. So welcome, Manishi.
Thanks, Ankit. Happy to be here. Happy to share all the learnings.
Your summer internship was also, going into the interiors of India, selling seeds, figuring out things with farmers or mill owners, etc. From there on, how did the switch to a luxury marketing career happen? Was it serendipity? Was it something that you naturally got attracted to?
So you are right. If somebody takes a survey and says, if you go back to my class 12th or my BTech or my MBA batches and take a survey to say who in the lot would possibly run marketing for a luxury brand, I would have been on the bottom of that list. So by any stretch of imagination, nobody would have picked me up for those kind of roles. Got lucky in getting the first break. A gentleman called Mr. Ravi Thakran, who is himself from IIM Ahmedabad, I think 88-89 batch, was leading the entry of LVMH Group into India. When we were doing our cultural festival, in those days, he used to be a part of Swatch Group and was running Omega. And then one fine day, I met him in an aircraft and he said, "What are you doing this, that? Why don't you meet us?" Kinds. And where I landed because of that was I became a part of a brand which was just about opening India. While globally it was a big brand. So I was part of Tag Heuer team. I was leading their sales and marketing effort. And then the third thing possibly which worked in our favor was because we were not, I was not from that background. I didn't have no clue about luxury marketing. In those days, there was not even a course about or a book about luxury marketing. So we took it very much like a logical evaluation. So you started operating saying, okay, fine, I don't know this word, but then like all logical words, this word should behave. If you do this should happen. If you do this should happen. Went on a very, very successful journey with Tag Heuer. When I started Tag Heuer, they had 4 doors, and in the first month of joining, when I collected the sales report, we had 8 watches sold all across India. From there to a point when I left, possibly we were selling about 1200 to 1500 watches all across India. Opened up 30 cities, about 100 doors. So did a lot of work. All along, industry did recognize, did appreciate. I would say LVMH per se is a very, very simple company at the back end. Sometimes, and again, people who want to join these brands have to understand one very key thing, that what you think you know of Louis Vuitton or a Tag Heuer is from an imagery which you are seeing from their advertising campaigns and all. That is targeted for the customer, not for the employee. One should never get influenced by the customer marketing and decide it to be their place of employment. So if you really go back to a Louis Vuitton office, you would be surprised because it is like an office. You have curtains out there and they are pushing on 27th. They are running around chasing their sales target. So the environment in the office, in a sales office, is very much the same like a sales office of a FMCG would work. You have shipments being piled up, and 20th, 29th, 30th, you are stuffing goods all along your distribution channel. So the back end of all companies, primarily, these are companies, they operate for profit. They market their products, they expect sales out of it. Now, all those are very uniform attributes. Just because you are in luxury industry doesn't mean it has to be different. Initially, Sitting on a table was uncomfortable. Choosing a wine was uncomfortable. Wondering whether knife has to be picked first or fork has to be picked first was uncomfortable. Over time, you realized that over time you learned. B, you also realize that nobody is looking at you. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want to do. You meet very, very rich, big French guys who tell you on your face, oh, I don't understand anything about wine. So if a French guy can say that, I can also say that. So over time, you learn that, people see you for your merits. You perform and they respect you for that. It doesn't matter if you don't really know, how to sit on a table or how to order a wine or how to, or you sometimes learn to say, give the honor to somebody else and then just follow him saying, okay, fine, I will also have the same thing. So you figure your way out, you develop your algorithms to ensure that you don't get embarrassed in those situations. And you learn a lot.
What is it that, made you excited about luxury marketing? Because, I mean, if you told me that, when you started, you were selling like 4 watches or 8 watches, and then you increased it to say 1,200, 1,500. So it's like a really slow moving item in a way. So what's so exciting about marketing in that space? What is the kick that you get?
Scale of the brands are relatively lesser, let's say from an FMCG perspective. Therefore, they have a much flatter structure. So it's, very soon and very early, you are the only one who's running the show in a certain way. The show could be small or big. But unlike, if I go to some FMCG brand, there would be 15 people who could be taking credit for the success of it, or, there would be far larger, meaningful discussions happening. But in a luxury kind of a setup, you do have an ability to do a lot because it's kind of a smaller P&L, but you run it practically totally yourself. And therefore, as if I look at whatever we achieved on Tag Heuer, it was it was done very methodically. We had a plan on what we are planning to do. We did a lot of advertising or a lot of communication. I should not say advertising. A lot of communication to people who were not our direct customers. And working on a premise, and I always believed it that way, that so the premium which your friend would have got by buying, or the happiness he would have got by wearing a Tag Heuer, came largely from the fact that 20 kids around him thought he was wearing something expensive. Now for that to happen, these 20 people have to know about the brand. And one way how we looked into it from, or how we were able to create a mass or a masstige brand or a much larger brand out of it, was because we clearly didn't say that these 20 people are my customers, I should target them.
Fascinating. Wanted to obviously touch upon this. You worked for almost 15 years, I think, with the Badshah of Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to know, how was that entire collaboration like? I think you probably even worked, on KBC with him with respect to promoting the watch, etc. Can you give us some instances, stories of that time, working with someone like SRK?
Great thing about, and one very noteworthy thing, and it is obviously a lot of people appreciate him for the fact that the integrity which he brings on the table, he was signed professionally, he was supposed to give some 2-3 appearances, 1-3 shooting day, and that's it. But the guy on his own would consider it to be his own brand. And thereafter, he would work towards the brand as if it is his own brand. He went out of the way, multiple places. He would even sit with you give you, if you say my sales are low this month, he would tell you, why don't you do this? We should do this on KBC. Let's see, this could increase your sales. The big thing about Shah Rukh, one is that when he works with brands, or he really becomes a part of your team. He wants for you to succeed, and maybe it is his own desire to succeed, and therefore he wants you to succeed. Number one. Number two is the willingness to work hard. You reach that point and still you have the capability to work 20 hours a day or 18 hours a day. He could be shooting all his night. He has given some commitment to us. He could be coming late, but he will definitely come. And once he is with you, he will give his best. If you remember, Dawn movie had a scene where he used his watch to blow up an enemy. And again, those were initiatives which were done by him. We showed him a watch and he said, okay, fine, I have an idea. Let me plug this in. He thinks he executed. There could have been some cost in the form of few watches to be given here and there, but he did a lot purely on his own, and which has to be appreciated.
But from your marketing career, are there 2 or 3 memorable moments that flash your mind right now that you can tell our viewers about?
After a very successful tag heuer journey in India, I was sent to China. It's a place called Harbin, very, very high up, minus 50, minus 40 degree Celsius temperature. So, there was an Indian cook who was working here in some food court. He heard there is an Indian in the hotel, so he came to meet me and he said, I just heard not many Indians come here. So I thought I should come say hello. So we did interacted, and then he said, you should have your dinner with me in my food court. So I and my Chinese colleagues went to have dinner in his food court, and he was generous enough to serve us a lot of food and saying it's all complimentary, so to say. Now, when we were eating food, my Chinese guy says that, brother, don't eat entire food because he will think you have not ordered enough. I, on the other hand, told him, brother, please finish all the food because he will think it is not good. And it's an amazing understanding of perspectives that, two cultures, two old cultures, but in China, it is important to leave food on the plate because otherwise the host feels he didn't order enough. While in India, you have a guilt conscious if you waste food, and if you leave food, it could mean that the food was not good enough. And from a marketing perspective, it's a great story because the context is always important. One should always be careful about the perspective on which, or the context or the character of the question being discussed, because the same thing could have two very, very different implications.
You spend so much time, you're doing so well. What prompted you to start VoiceBack Analytics? Why become an entrepreneur? Why leave a comfortable job? How did all of that pan out?
I will be 45 day after tomorrow. So I thought, 44 is possibly a good time because you still will get 15 years of run to build something of your own. I firmly believe that, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, you would have products on one side, and I'm saying products, not brands, and you would have customers on one side. In between, you would have a big box of technology. Now, this box could contain digital marketing, could contain e-commerce, could contain analytics, but there would be a big box which will connect these two things together. And in that context, it became very important for me that I should get into this box. And a lot of people ask me that why would you want to leave a job, come to a sector which is, and be wanted to be beaten by a 22-year-old. My belief is that the 22-year-old who understands the technology very well doesn't understand business. I, on the other hand, understand business very well, and if I can spruce up my tech understanding, I could create far better, far bigger solutions out there. And I've done a lot of, it has been starting from scratch, so to say. I have done courses, I have studied, and I have taken exams, got credentials. I have literally behaved the way I used to behave 20 years back in terms of my, the time, what I do with my day. But it has been an, enormous and a beautiful journey so far.
So what does your company really do? So anybody who's watching this video, why should they approach you? What are the problems that you can solve for them?
So we are a customized data analytics company. So far, we are not into products. At a general level, we say that, if you have data and if you have a problem, we can solve it for you. So that's the premise. Now, in the nitty-gritties, I'll just tell you how the world is changing. That, when we ran, let's say, a tag heuer business, we had about 50, 60 dealers. We didn't have a wholesaler. There was no supply chain. These people used to order us once a month. They will give us sellout reports once a month, possibly 100, 120 odd SKUs. And all this can very easily fit in an Excel sheet and you can analyze it. Now, today I was talking to a client of mine who is actively playing on e-commerce. He sells through, let's say, a Cloudtail, through a Flipkart. He sells through a Tata Click. He has his own website. So he's already selling through 5 or 6 channels. Each of these channels is giving him a report every day. His SKUs are possibly now in 500. And he is fulfilling this business from 9 or 7 warehouses across the country, because Flipkart loves to pick up goods from the closest order point so that it can be delivered. Now the complication, 10 years back, there was no data available. You used to get it once a month. You create some graphs out of it and you can run your business. In today's world, when that level granularity of data is being generated on every day, there is no way you can handle this on your Excel stories. So essentially we are building solutions which are, let's say, above Excel. So whenever you have data points, either volume of data or velocity of data, which can't be handled at an Excel, we come on board and we largely operate on platforms like MySQL and run programs on R and Python. We are these days using Power BI from Microsoft quite aggressively as a front-end dashboarding solution. So we combine all of these to give you a platform which will be able to handle the volume and the velocity of data which you are getting.
Manishi is going to be, doing a 3-day program for, everyone on marketing analytics. Who should sign up for this program and what should people expect from this?
Marketing over the past 5, 7, 10 years has quickly moved from being an art to a hardcore science. So what I would possibly focus in the course, one, obviously I start from what a traditional marketing is, and then we move on to what the world is today, with a lot of these technologies which are on the horizon, either have arrived or would be arriving, and how you can improve your classical decision making by relying more on data.